Hello everybody and welcome to another Tomb Tuesday. It's actually Wednesday, I know, June 15th, 2022, but you will understand why with the massive Tomb Tuesday that we have. It was delayed one day to get the video out. Let me preface this with, we are not going to be reading this one out verbatim. It is very, very long. And you should really sit down and read it when you have time. So either on Telegram or Discord, you should certainly make some time to sit down and read it. For today, we'll go over the main topic points, summarize what we can, break down a little bit here and there. But for the most part, this is something that you're going to want to go to Telegram or Discord and read it for yourself. So let's begin. Sunday was a historical day. Sunday was June 12th. That was the very last emissions for T-Share. It was also the very start of the Lif3 Genesis pools and being able to get L-Share in there for your LPs on Cemetery V2. So it was a big transitional day, ending T-Share emissions, beginning the Lif3 Genesis pools and beginning L-Share emissions. So it was huge. So he goes on to say a huge thank you to the team, everybody that had to work behind the scenes to get this going, to get all of that worked, to have it all transition on the same day was no small task. All right, so that's the beginning part right there. Moving on to Tomb and Cemetery V2. So now that T-Share emissions have ended, now all the T-Shares that can ever be out there are out there, which is great. And now L-Shares starts and also the Genesis of Life. Let's talk about Cemetery V2. This is your way to get L-Share now. So in the Cemetery V2, we're not going to go over everything here. We'll go over the new ones, the Life pools, right? So Tomb Life is new. You have Life FTM, that's new. Life USDC, that's new. That's your way to get L-Shares by utilizing Life tokens. Life tokens you can get in the Genesis pool. T-Share and L-Share pools, some new ones here. L-Share USDC and T-Share L-Share LP. And again, these are two more ways to now utilize your L-Share that you are getting in order to get more L-Share. And we'll talk about the Genesis pool in just 1 second. But again, you can get to this right here on tomb.com. All right, so that'll take care of Cemetery V2. Let's get into the Genesis of Life. So he goes on to say, after months and months and months of work to bring Genesis to everybody, it is now here, and it happened on the same day that T-Share emissions came to a close. So it was huge, right? And this is one very small piece of the much larger puzzle. Now, this is going to happen for 90 days. So that is a really long time, but what it ends up being is a single stake farm that allows you to earn during the bear market. So he does go on to say over here about, sell in May and go away. That old adagio that's been around for a while. That, and then we have, from May to October, historically, the market's been pretty rough. We are currently in a bear market. So here's the deal. Wanted a way for all of us that got wrecked to survive the bear market, allowing everybody to single stake for 90 days. So right here, the best trade now for the next 90 days is single staking and earning yield on the Genesis pools for life. And then you can stake LPs in the Cemetery V2, earning L-Share. Auto compounders are coming. Goes on to say this is a gift from us to Phantom, Tomb, and Life community. Let's go take a look at the Lif3 Genesis pool right here. And again, you can get that from tomb.com. So tomb.com, you'll have a tab up top that say Lif3 Genesis. So in here, I know we went over this before, but let's talk about it one more time. And yes, we are down to 88 days. Tomb, WFTM, USDC Zoo, WETH, WBTC, T-Bond, Based, T-Share, B-Share, and then L share. So of the L share you make in your LPs, you can also single stake that L share back here to make more life. So you can see how the sort of the game of life is evolving already in front of your eyes. It's expanding. It's giving you, and by game, it's giving you those opportunities on how you want to play it. There's a lot of different ways you could play it. There's a lot of different assets you could utilize. There's, Lif3 Genesis, and there's Cemetery V2 that you could move back and forth with, generate life tokens, swap some out for Tomb to Life LP, make yourself some L share, single stake that L share back over in the Genesis pools to make more life. So you can see there's countless ways that you could play this, and that's really cool. And not only that, man, it gives you something to do in the bear market, which is wild, right? You can't ignore the fact that the market is down. Bitcoin was just at 20,000 and change just earlier today, low 20,000. So you're talking 20,100 or give or take 20,070, I believe was the low for the day. So, this gives you something to do, which is amazing, and you're earning yield at the same time, which is absolutely fantastic. All right, so that'll take care of the Genesis of Life. Now, these next parts are where you probably want to pay a little bit closer attention so you get a better background on the bigger picture. This section starts it off, the Tomb and Life ecosystem. Now, I know we've already gone over this a few times. Let's take a look at that graphic real quick. So on this graphic, you see the umbrella is Tomb Finance, right? It all starts on Tomb Finance, and then it all, works its way down. Infrastructure, Felix, Tomb Chain, Tomb Swap, Life Swap, right? Big infrastructure type items. And then protocol type items, support type items, partner type items, Tomb, Based, Life, Fanny, Crypt, ZooCoin, and Only. So a ton of stuff that goes into the actual Tomb ecosystem. And over here is a write-up, what Tomb is, Felix, Based, Tomb Chain, Life, how all of these things sort of play onto one another, how Felix supports Tomb by providing utility, how, Life will support Tomb currently in the beginning with LPs, moving on to a DEX on Tomb Chain, how things like Based support Tomb, and, behind the scenes, devs to devs, we support each other. So it's a huge family. It's a massive ecosystem. Zoo has been on, I believe it's on here somewhere, but Zoo's been on point with building out Tomb Chain. So there's just so many pieces of the puzzle. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know just how big the overall picture is, and it is huge, but all of these things need to happen in tandem, all behind the scenes, all at the same time. So it's a lot of work. So anyway, this section over here sort of goes on to tell you how the whole ecosystem sort of unfolds, the things that can be shared at this time, the things that can't be shared at this time, that type of thing is all written out over here. So it does end it over here with you could currently and for the next 3 months single stake a host of amazing assets to earn life. You can then use this life to make LP. So everything we just talked about earlier when we were talking about the Genesis and the Cemetery V2. All right, moving on, we do have some more announcements, and then we'll get into the end part over there. Tomb Chain Countdown. We talked about this last week, but we do have some new information here that is very, very, very important. And the biggest one is that it's going to be a permissioned L2. So he goes on to say, rest assured that the team and I are working as hard as possible to deliver this product. I have also elected to make Tomb Chain the safest chain in all of DeFi. So what does he mean by that? Tomb Chain will be a permissioned L2, which means the safest of our users, or the safety of our users is our number one focus. There's way too many rugs, way too many scams. They attract users like you and I. They attract us, and then they run away with our money. Now, whether they're just lying to you or whether it's lazy code or whether it's a copy paste or whether whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. If they're not vetted and they're nefarious in nature, meaning that they're looking to steal your money from day one. These are things that we do not want on Tomb Chain. Tomb Chain, all projects will be vetted to the best of my ability, and I aim to bring only projects that bring value, utility, and function to our users. And then a reminder of what Tomb Chain will do for Tomb, right? Because there's obviously there's a ton that goes into Tomb Chain that will utilize Tomb. So this is really, really, really big here. This is a huge piece of information. It will be the safest chain available, right? This is going to be vetted developers, vetted dApps. This is going to be dApps that are, vetted to the point where you could feel safe putting your money with them instead of, always the gamble of you don't know if that next project is going to rug on you, so forth, so on and so forth. So I think that is huge. This is a massive piece of the puzzle there. So that's really good that we now have that information, permissioned L2. And again, that is the optimistic roll-up call Tomb Chain that will be live soon, very soon. All right, Felix and friends. Felix added alpaca over here. So this is really cool. Another new chain, another new protocol, another new token has been added to the list. So that's really good. Those trading pairs are available. They're on Felix. A reminder that Felix has a ton of trading pairs. And again, we talk about safety, right? It's all backed by Binance, which is amazing. So you have Binance's security. You have Binance's their technology is the cloud exchange. We have all their security. We have their liquidity, right? The same liquidity that's on Felix is used on Binance. So huge stuff over there. The long-awaited Tomb as utility for staking. I believe they are just swapping a few things or just updating a few things on that end. But that is... it's essentially here, which is amazing. We just have to wait for those numbers to be updated, and then everything will be, live and ready to rock and roll. So another huge, huge, huge thing, and that is a massive, an absolutely massive use case, which is really, really, really cool. And then over here you can see the just a bigger picture of the alpaca over there and Felix bringing him on. Now, next, let's talk about Fanny. It's been a little while since we mentioned Fanny, but Fanny is going to have the adventures with Fanny and X, right? And the French Bulldog needed a name. So a few weeks ago, there was a competition in the Discord that gave people the chance to think of a name for the French Bulldog. And finally, we have an answer. It's right here. T-Bone. So the French Bulldog's name will be T-Bone. So we will be talking about the adventures of Fanny and T-Bone. So that is really cool. And that is going to be the logo. It appears, we don't have confirmation on that, but it appears that that'll be more than likely the token logo for Fanty. Now, just a reminder that Felix is still the cat for Felix.com. Let's go back to the picture real quick. This is Felix. Right? So we will have a new Fanny. And we will have a French Bulldog that will go by the name of T-Bone. All right. We go into airdrops. Airdrops are coming. Again, this goes on to the end of Q2. Today's the 15th, so you essentially have 15 or so more days until this is scheduled, to be released. So if everything is on time. So far so good. It looks like everything is going smooth on that end. And we just await for the announcement that they will be live to claim. And again, that it's looking like it's going to be live to claim on the site itself on tomb.com. So wait for further information on that, but that's where we're at with that right now. Okay. Tomb is life. Life is Tomb. Building Tomb and life for the future. And then this last section over, well, then the game of Tomb, the game of life, and life was designed to complement Tomb and then changing the game. These 4 or 5 sections are where you really want to sit down and read this to yourself. In summary, it's a really good backdrop on, where Harry stands as far as Phantom. Right? He goes on to say he loves Phantom, right? He absolutely loves Phantom. He loves Tomb. He treats these, like his children. The reason I decided to take over Tomb Project was because of the community. So again, going back to basics here of how important, you and I are, right? We are the community. We represent the community as a whole. I'm saying as a whole. And that community as a whole, that Tomb community, is amazing, right? It's just absolutely amazing. So it's that reason, right? That was the initial surge. But then, from there, he goes on to say, a background in software engineering. He knew that when he came into Tomb Finance, he was going to have to do something. He was going to have to change something. Seniorage is great in the very beginning, but then you need utility, right? You have to actually morph that into and expand it so that there is more utility. And then he goes on to say life, right? That was the first DeFi project that he started from the ground up. So that was a challenge in and of itself. And he goes on to say, my goals today are the same as they were from day one. Support and grow Phantom ecosystem to be one of the top L1 chains in the world. Grow the Tomb ecosystem and give Tomb utility, and then build out life to complement both Tomb and Phantom. So it's a massive undertaking. He talks about being a hedge fund manager, knowing that he was going to have to build something that was attractive, but something that could actually run through a bear market, right? You're never being in a bull market forever. That's not how that works. So if you're building for the future, and we all know Harry's timeline, his time horizon goes into the years. So you can't build and presume you're going to be in a bull market for years. That's unrealistic. So you have to build knowing you have to be able to sustain a bear market. And guess what? Now we're in a bear market, right? So all of these things had to be thought about back in September. And so he talks about all of that. He talks about how all of that sort of came to fruition and the things that he needed to do in order to get those things rolling. Goodbye peg hello ratio. This section is all about, essentially removing the word pegged, right? Because Tomb's not pegged to anything because it has its own utility and intrinsic value based off the utility we provide. And what that means is using Tomb as gas, right, on Tomb Chain. Using Tomb being staked on Felix for trading fee discounts. These are real world utility, right? That's real utility. That is a token being used because it now has utility to do those things. Tomb being used as collateral, something like going on Tarot and putting on Tomb and then, borrowing against it, right? That's also another utility. More utilities will be coming as dApps go on Tomb Chain and require the use of Tomb. So there could be some for instances there, but we're not going to get into those at the moment until things are actually confirmed. But yes, and then you can use Tomb right here. You can use Tomb for Genesis pool. So of course you have Tomb being used as a yield provider, right? So you're able to generate yield, that yield being in the form of life tokens, and you're able to use your Tomb in order to get that life. So there are use cases for Tomb, and it's huge, right? So he goes on to say that it should be ratio, right? Like, so the best way to properly describe Tomb is now the following. When the ratio of Tomb is 101 to Phantom, the masonry emits Tomb every 6 hours. And so the idea there is like, forget the need or forget the terminology of pegged when it's just a ratio of Tomb to Phantom, perfect. Tomb to Phantom, and then if you're at a certain ratio, then yes, you will mint new ones. We always go on to say that, the way seigniorage works is when there is a demand for more tomb in the market, it will print, right? It will print more tomb. That's simply how it works. And so that model, those mechanisms have not changed. When there is a demand for more tomb will be printed. All right, and then we go on to the game of tomb and the game of life. So, with life now being added into the mix, and he goes on to say, in short, think of the game of tomb as a super degen game and the game of life as a more steady and less degen game. What does that mean? It means that 90 days of Genesis pools is a long time, right? But it's stable. It's consistent. You could just safely put your money into Genesis and just allow it to sort of farm over time. You could further develop that game by then pulling those rewards, creating LPs, and then in those LPs, you are now being rewarded with the L share emissions. Down the road, you're going to be able to bring some of those assets over to Tomb Chain, right onto LifeSwap, and be able to stake over there as well. So there's so many things that are part of just that life part. Now the tomb part, right? Again, things don't change because you have your demand. And when the demand rises, more tomb will be minted. So the accumulation of tomb, the accumulation of T-share, that in and of itself is its own game. What you do with that tomb, you could take that tomb, you could slap it with life, and then all of a sudden you have a tomb life LP, and now you're getting some emittance of the L share. So again, a lot of different ways to play both of those, but he goes on to just talk about game of tomb, game of life. Then we go into life was designed to complement tomb. This whole section is all about the life and tomb ecosystems and what they are to do with each other. Why he's allowed to talk about some of the long-term plan and why he's not. And he goes on to say reasons for not copycats, right? So what happens? You spend a whole bunch of money, you get everything ready, and then you announce all these great things are coming, and then copycats come in and they just do their own thing and they take it all from you, right? So that's one reason to keep a lot of stuff under the belt. And the other one is the markets. You know what I mean? So as you've seen in the last 30 days, the world has completely changed, right? So the markets rely on humans. Even though there are a lot of algo traders, there's a lot of bot traders, there are a lot of systems in place to help people trade without the human element, to help people trade without emotions. But by and large, retail works off of emotions. We're human. So when people panic, when they freak out, when they sell, when the markets become really irrational, that's all human behavior. And you have to be able to adjust for humans, right? We are a pivotal point in all of the markets. So he does go on to talk about humans and reasons that only bits and pieces of the overall grand design are released. And so here's at least an explanation for the people that always want, the roadmap, tell me. There are reasons why some of those pieces are held back until they're closer to being ready or completely ready, and then they will be announced. All right, so the beauty of the game of life is that, we're building an experiment and you're able to adjust and change things, essentially on the fly. So give yourself the opportunity to embrace change, and what that means, he talks about in further detail over here, changing the game. Change, unfortunately, takes time, and this is why I designed life to be the way that it is. L share emissions last 4 years, Genesis pools last 90 days, and more will be coming. Now, the problem with DeFi we are trying to address with life is building something long-lasting and sustaining, since this is such a new part of DeFi. We are introducing more of a human element because, at the end of the day, people are the ones who are important, not computers and smart contracts. So what does this mean? And this is what he goes on to say. Expect changes with life. It's dynamic. It's built in a way that can embrace the bear market. It's built in a way that can embrace change in the market. It's built in a way that can embrace change in sentiment of humans, human behavior, rational and irrational markets, panic, and, again, thrill and euphoria. All of those things can be adjusted. So he does say expect changes to the game of life. Things that we were expecting to launch or deploy will most likely change because of the market conditions and how well the protocol is received. He does go on to say that, there's no playbook for this. Ending T-share emissions, starting L-share emissions, adding the game of life to the game of Tomb under the umbrella of the Tomb ecosystem. There's no study case for that. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of forethought, and some of it is leaving the door open to have adjustable variables so that you can make it work in all market conditions. And that is what he goes on to talk about here. But the really good part for everybody, ultimately, everything we do as a protocol for Tomb and Life is to better serve the community and project in the long term. And that is what is so important. When it all boils down to it, yes, it can be very confusing. Why does this happen? Why did they release that? What is the use case for this? What are you doing with that? And what am I supposed to do with Cemetery V1 to Cemetery V2? And what's going on with the Masonry? All of these things can be very, very, very confusing. And we get that. We totally understand that. But in the back of your head, always, always, always remember that every decision that is ever made is right here, is to better serve the community and the project in the long term. It's always, always at the top of the priority list. It always is. It's always there to make sure that every decision that has been made is for the benefit of the community and for betterment of the project and for the betterment of keeping the project sustainable for the long term. And you will see, we've already seen it, project after project after project are not going to be able to survive this bear market. And Tomb, Felix, Life, based only, when it comes, Tomb Chain, these things will survive. And the reason they will survive is, one, with Life, you have all those adjustable variable parameters. With Tomb, you have the community at the forefront at all times and use cases that are now being delivered. You have the backing of a insanely talented team that runs deep in the trenches of everything that is happening here. So it's a massive undertaking, but it involves everybody. Every single person is involved in the Tomb ecosystem, and that's a really big deal. And so that's something that Harry does not take lightly. So thank you all for the trust in our team and the protocol of Tomb and Life, and it's because of you that we created something for a lifetime. So that is how this will end. I know this is just shy of 30 minutes, but even then, it's just a summary. So really, if there was a Tomb Tuesday you were going to read verbatim, this is the one that you want to go do that. Head to Telegram, head to Discord, wherever you want to read this. Even if you want to take screenshots of this and read it here, whatever you want to do. But it is something that every user in Tomb, everybody in the Tomb ecosystem should read word for word. All right, that will wrap it up for this Tomb Tuesday. This is the last of the Tomb Tuesdays. It'll now be the Tomb Life Tuesdays. So we're adding that in moving forward from this day forward. So that will wrap it up for this one. And as always, we keep calm and Tomb on.